candidates for those questions. What we're going to do now, thank you panelists for the questions. We're going to go ahead and open it up. It is about noon, maybe a minute till. Oh, we're done. We're going to go ahead and open it up to a few questions, but they are going to be limited questions for the candidates. If you do have a question, because of time constraints, we'll go ahead and limit it to about 3 questions, but please come up here as the microphone won't stretch.
Just let me go on the record. I'll stay. Anybody wants to talk about it?
Okay, if you have questions, please go ahead and come up here. Make sure that you address the question to the candidate that you are asking it of.
This question is for both the Republican candidates. You both spoke about limiting the size of government and not throwing money to fix a problem, yet that's the posture of the GOP with the border wall. My question is, do either of you support the repeal of birthright citizenship in the 14th Amendment? If so, please explain why.
Regarding the border wall, what was it exactly you said about the border wall?
She needed clarification on your question.
The specific question.
The border wall.
No, the specific question is if you support the repeal of the birthright citizenship in the 14th Amendment.
And I thought you indicated we threw money at the border wall.
You did.
Well, we should look at the $1.3 billion that was thrown at the virtual border fence. That was the virtual border fence that our congressmen continue to get earmarks on in billions of dollars, even though there was a GAO report out there stating that equipment wasn't efficient, the individuals who were working on the projects were not qualified to be there. So that's a Democratic thing about the $1.3 billion on the border wall. Now, do I object to...
Do you support the repeal of birthright citizenship as outlined in the 14th Amendment to the Constitution?
I believe it says that if you are a citizen, if your parents are citizens of the United States and you're born in the United States, you are a citizen of the United States. That is what I believe, and I support the 14th Amendment.
Okay, the Constitution, written as it is, I totally support. Birthright citizenship, I support. If you are born in the United States, you are a United States citizen, okay? I do think we need to look at border security. We need to know who's coming and going. But no, I would not support repealing the 14th Amendment as it's written.
Can we have these last 2 questions? Please direct them specifically to a candidate.
This is both for Republican and Democrat. I am a veteran. I'm waiting on benefits. The current list is 18 months to receive benefits. I've turned to the current legislation, and I've had to prove a hardship. Veterans now have to track their own records. Why and how do you plan on fixing this issue?
That is a very good, fair question, especially for our military community in the Northeast and here in El Paso. Our military is one of our greatest assets. Yes, my father, 3 wars, the Korean War, World War II, and Vietnam, passed away last year. He struggled with benefits like you have struggled. No, I believe that we shouldn't, as veterans, should not have to keep up with our records. Our records are being kept at hospitals and someplace in, I'm not sure, in Indiana, where our records are being kept. Veterans should not have to fight for what's right is theirs. They've gone to war, they served our country. Why are we veterans have to fight for our benefits? Our benefits are there for us. Our government has failed again on these issues up here in Washington. I support, once I'm elected as congressman, 100% behind the veterans to make sure they get their benefits. They shouldn't have to apply for benefits 3 or 4 times when something is rightfully theirs the first time around.
Why are veterans waiting years to hear back on benefits? Why must veterans wait years and cut through mountains of red tape to hear back on disability claims? Why are we making veterans as far back as World War II veterans travel to Albuquerque, New Mexico to get simple procedures done? It's because we do not have a congressman who actively represents the interests of veterans here. It's why you have 70,000 veterans in this region and only 24,000 remain enrolled in the VA. They have simply gotten too frustrated and fed up and have opted out of the system. I agree with Mr. Johnson, we're not doing right by those who've done right by this country. We need to turn that around. First thing I would do as your congressman is make sure that our local VA is adequately staffed. People returning with PSP symptoms are waiting 4 to 6 to 8 weeks to see a therapist when the recommended regimen is once a week with the same therapist. There's no continuity of care and really no care for those veterans in many cases when they come back. We have 8 to 12 to 16-month waiting times just to get in to see a doctor, and oftentimes those visits are bumped. What we're doing right now is not working. Send the same person up there if you're happy with the results we have today. If you want change, you must vote for it.
Congressman Reyes is a veteran. You're not a veteran, sir. He's a disabled veteran. He lost his hearing. He knows what it's like. He's enrolled in the VA. He understands that there are issues that we need to fix, and he's worked to fix them. One of the things that we can do is start making sure that electronic records are transferable between the Department of Defense and the Veteran Affairs. That is an issue that we need to resolve, that people have been talking for years. Now, there are some people who want to impose across-the-board cuts in all agencies. The Budget Control Act will force Congress to do that unless we change leadership and change that law. Mr. O'Rourke said he would have supported that law. He cares so much about veterans, already said he would have supported a bill that would have cut funds that would help solve these issues. When he was on City Council, there was no mention of veterans. Congressman Reyes understands veterans because he's a veteran, and he knows about the VA, and he understands those issues.
Again, I'm a veteran. I'm actually enrolled at the VA clinic up here at William Beaumont, so I understand a lot of the issues and a lot of the problems that you go through, sir. It's way backlogged, big problems. I'm also a subscriber to a newspaper called the Army Times. Basically, every single week talks about how the current administration, through the act Mr. Torres is talking about, is cutting active duty, military, vets. I think it's going to get worse before it actually gets better. Election isn't until November. They're cutting and cutting and cutting, and it's terrible. When we have veterans that are coming back from combat zones, injured, and they can't even get in to see the medical care. So we need to definitely help our veterans. It's one of the main priorities. The Constitution says that we need to, defend, our territory, the United States. So we definitely need to work on that. And it's not always just throwing more money at it. We've seen what happens there. $16 trillion thrown to fix every problem, but it does need to be refined and looked at and definitely fixed.
Sir, I think we have the technological capability to electronically monitor these records so a soldier won't have to do that. And I think those are assets and resources we need to certainly employ. That's number one. Number two, just listening to some of the acrimony that exists up here on the dais once again. Combined total 22 years in office, and now we're having a debate about veterans benefits and veterans hospital. We've been in we're in Afghanistan for more than 10 years, a long combat tour in Iraq, and we are now just talking about it. One individual on council for 6 years, a congressman in office for 16. These issues are not new. Had we seen cooperation instead of conflict between those individuals, a number of these problems would be written into history. But our failure to cooperate between the national level and the local level creates many of the problems that we're suffering through and discussing right now. The person that represents the change for that is in this seat right now.
This question is for Mr. Torres.
I can answer that.
Oh.
Can you give me an opportunity to answer?
I apologize.
That's okay, thank you. I'm up here. I agree. Our veterans, our soldiers go out in foreign land and fight for the freedoms and liberties that allow us to be here today. They should not come home and have to fight for their benefits. There are a couple of states that are doing the medical records online. Those are prototypes, and I don't understand the high technology that we are, the country that we are, why we haven't done that before, but that is a process that is going to be instituted throughout the United States to eliminate the time period that you have, the time frame that you wait for your benefits. I understand the backlog is 1 million claims right now, so that should help. And regarding the Budget Control Act and the reasons why there's a cut to the DOD, the reason is because we've had a Congress who's been polarized and who has not submitted a budget for close to 4 years. They haven't planned how they're going to use our tax dollars, which have resulted in a cut to the Department of Defense. They are taking care of the budget, their lack of budget, the deficit that we have on the backs of our veterans, because they failed to do their job going on 4 years.
Mr. Torres, I'm sorry I have to ask you this question, but Congressman Reyes is absent, and it denies me, the candidates, and his fellow alumni from interacting with him. So I know you might have predetermined answers to questions, but let me ask you this. You wear a logo that says Reyes Works. You always answer, and Congressman Reyes, that he's hard at work. Mr. O'Rourke has said his voting record is terrible. There is a nationwide poll that we disapprove of Congress 17%. That is the approval rate. Could you please tell me and the voters, why should we elect someone, and you just heard a veteran, that for 16 years has been in office, is he as ineffective as the entire congressional group? Thank you, sir.
Absolutely, and I appreciate the question. I'm very honored and glad to be here to represent Congressman Reyes. Part of my work actually is interacting with constituents on a daily basis, helping folks with their VA claims, with their Social Security, disability claims, and all those different actual issues that impact people, helping students with financial aid and so forth. There's a lot of misinformation. There's been a lot of misrepresentation of the congressman's record, and it's an election season, that's going to happen. But I've never seen a man work so hard for his community, so hard. So I'm very proud to wear this sticker, because over the course of his career, and I mentioned this earlier, 10,000 votes. He has a 92% attendance record, and over 70 bills include language that he himself has authored to help benefit El Paso. Now the congressman isn't, if you've met him, he's not a show horse, he's not out trying to take credit for stuff, but he works extremely hard for his community, and he apologized he can't be here, but he's in Washington, he's working for you, and you're always welcome to call our office, visit our website if you need anything that we can help you with.
Okay, we are actually over time, so we're going to conclude with this last question, and then we'll have closing comments from each of the candidates. Okay.
Thank you. On the national level, when you hear El Paso mentioned, you hear war zone. We have a very negative image nationally. That's the only coverage we get, is when something happens in Juarez, we get mentioned as, yeah, we're right here. I think on a national level, people think that we're hiding in our homes and dodging bullets on our way to school and back. Okay, we talk about higher education and wanting to have better jobs, but the majority of the people that graduate from UTEP leave. People get degrees, they're here, and some can't stay even that want to stay because they don't have work. So, Beto, you want to go and represent us. How can we change that? How can you change our national image so that we're not seen as a dangerous place?
I think that's an excellent question. And I think we have to get at the root of where this image comes from. There is no denying, despite the fact that you and I live in the safest city in the United States today, that we live next to the deadliest city in the world, bar none. You take any city in Afghanistan, any city in Iraq, any city in Sudan, and Juarez, Mexico, which has lost 10,000 plus citizens over the last 4 years to the most atrocious and horrible murders this community has ever witnessed, is causing that image to persist. So what are the causes of that? You know, certainly there are inputs to that on the Mexican side, the failed institutions of law, the failed institutions of social and economic mobility. But I've also had the courage to talk about the drug war. That is certainly an input to that. And let me say this, I don't believe in, nor do I want anyone ever in the United States to use drugs, any drug, whether it's marijuana or something harder, because every time a U.S. citizen purchases any of those drugs, those proceeds go to the Mexican cartels who use that to terrorize a city like Juarez. But until we get a hold of this problem, until we solve it together, we're going to continue to have this image around the world.
Thank you. That concludes the question and answer session. So now we'll go ahead and wrap it up with a 1-minute closing statement from each of the candidates, and we'll go ahead and start over here on the end.
I introduced myself and I asked for your vote and for your support. And I also stated to the students out there that I have had the privilege of living an American dream. I have been privileged to inherit a land of opportunity. And I told you that you may not have that land of opportunity. You may not have that dream. And the reason is you've been saddled with massive debt. Are you aware that before you even start working, you owe $50,000 to the federal government on our debt? Every taxpayer in the United States owes $134,000 in debt. That's what this administration has done to you. You go out and you vote for this administration, you vote for any of the Democrats, it's insanity. We're going to be here 2 years from today talking about the same problems we're talking about now. They spent our money, they have no budget for it, and you're the ones that are going to pay for it. Nothing in life is free, so the programs that you're going to fight for today, you're going to pay for down the road, I guarantee you. That's what we're doing now. We need to save our country. I want to ensure that you have the same privileges and that my children and grandchildren enjoy the country that I enjoy. That's what we need. We need new ideas and a fresh perspective in Washington, and I offer that. Please vote for me in May in the primary, and again in November for the general. Thank you.
Again, my name is Paul Johnson Jr. I'm a new candidate here running for your Congress. Why do you want to elect somebody like me? I tell you why you want to elect somebody like me. I have the heart to represent the people of El Paso and this country. I represent veterans from all the United States, especially our veterans here in El Paso. Our veterans are suffering, they can't get the care. Many things that I would like to do is bring a VA hospital once William Beaumont is moved, and bring William Beaumont a VA hospital so our veterans doesn't have to travel and get the care that they need. 2, education is a big priority. I will lower those entrance rates and get those Pell Grants to the students. 3, health care, provide health care for everybody. We all need it, and not the selective few people should not have it, and not the rest of us.
Job creation is one of the most, if not the most important aspects of this campaign. When I knock on people's doors, that's typically the first issue they bring up. Again, you're going to have to ask yourself why Mr. Torres, Congressman Reyes, legislative director, keeps bringing up these 150 jobs from Boeing that wanted a tax break from you to fund one of the richest corporations in the world to do business here. Here's why I didn't vote for them. It's because I believe in you. I think Boeing is very lucky to be able to work in our community, to be able to hire you, and to be able to work in El Paso. Unfortunately, your congressman does not believe in you. Mr. Torres and every senior person in his Washington, D.C. office is not from El Paso. Those are exciting, wonderful opportunities for you or somebody you know to work in D.C. and to work at the forefront of public policy. But guess what? Congressman Reyes doesn't think you're good enough to do that. Only people who aren't from El Paso are. I believe in you. My company has only hired El Pasoans. My campaign is staffed by El Pasoans, like Matt Sutton, who's a peer of yours here at the community college. And it's that kind of belief that I want to take to Washington, D.C. I'm asking for your vote and support on May 29th to get there. Thank you.
Well, I'm very glad to be here, and I want to thank you for the invitation, and I want to thank the Student Government Association. Congressman is in Washington. He's working. He's voting. He's proudly representing you. Over 10,000 votes in this community, a 92% attendance record, and 7 bills that include language that he's authored that directly benefits El Paso. Votes to increase the Pell Grant, to decrease student interest rates on loans, to extend the federal work study program, to pass the DREAM Act. Those are important jobs, important votes that would not have happened if he wasn't there. You sent him there, and he's working hard for you. You have a very clear choice this election. If you want to elect someone with no experience, with no seniority, who goes on personal attacks, but when he was asked to step up, he voted against people with disabilities. He fought our police unions. And now he wants to raise the retirement age on our seniors. That is the person that you have to choose between him or the congressman who grew up on a farm, one of 9 kids, graduated from El Paso Community College, a proud veteran, and proved to be one of the most powerful members of Congress from El Paso. That's true leadership. I hope you vote for Congressman Reyes on May the 29th. Thank you.
There's a definition of insanity that says if you continue to do the same thing over and over and expect a different result, something wrong here. We've had Democrats in the House of, in Congress, House of Representatives since 1965 is the last time a Republican was elected to represent the people of El Paso. Let's try something new. Let's come with bright ideas. In 2010, there was a Republican landslide in Congress, bringing in Tea Party conservatives, bringing in Republicans. I predict, going record now, that's going to happen again in this upcoming election cycle. Let's make a difference for our country. We got huge unemployment. We got huge gas prices. We got major problems out there, and if we continue to do what we're doing, we're going to get the same result, people. Let's try something new. Now, it's been great we've done this. Go to my website. It's CoreyRowanForCongress.com. Go to CoreyRowanForCongress.com. You're going to find out a lot of my positions on veterans and the military. We haven't even talked Fort Bliss hardly at all. I'm involved with Fort Bliss all the time. Been involved with them really for over the last 22 years when I got here to El Paso in 1990. Vote for me in the election on May 29th.
The resume and platform are on the table for your perusal. I invite you to go over. I also have the latest map for the 16th Congressional District. Let me say that when the boundaries were in dispute, persons on the panel had an opportunity to speak up and say, no, let's not lose those 59,000 people, but they did not. They were okay with losing 59,000 people to the 23rd Congressional District. I thought that was a bad move. My address happened to be in one of them. Fort Bliss is the flagship for the El Paso economy. You need a personnel who's got soldier experience and business experience. I think those credentials are best represented in this campaign. The last thing I want to remind you of is this. One of the biggest sins committed in Congress is the acrimony and bickering between individuals who have been hired to do the people's business. You see a microcosm of that right here on the dais. Sylvester Reyes, Beto O'Rourke, combined time in service, 22 years. These issues are not brand new. They had golden opportunities to work together a long time ago, but they did not. The people suffer from it. I think it's time for a change.
Thank you. On behalf of VPCC, we'd like to thank you for your participation in today's event. Ladies and gentlemen, that does conclude the candidate debates. If you have any other questions or information, they each have tables set up in the back, so that way you can go ahead and find out anything or have an opportunity to speak to them further. Okay? Thank you.